things. So, for example, John Fontaine wrote 2 days ago, the Old and New Testament are not the Torah and Injil that was revealed from Allah. James R. White, a famous Christian apologist, constantly conflates the two. If anyone knows James, let him know. I would be interested to debate him in his church. I don't mind traveling to the USA if he suffers from flight sickness. Tag him if you know him. I'm executive platinum on American. I don't think I suffer from flight sickness. I've spent more time overseas this year than ever before. I've done numerous debates in London recently. It almost seems like he's not really paying attention here, but believe me, my church is not set up for debates. It's not a location for debates, but I do intend on coming to the United Kingdom at least once, possibly twice next year. Once part of a literally worldwide tour from London to South Africa, Zambia, hopefully Australia, New Zealand, and back that way. So it literally goes around the world. And then possibly later in the year, if we get to do the Reformation tour in Switzerland, if that ends up working out for next year. So there are opportunities, and I would like to do that. But I'm just a little saddened by the fact that I was going to show you that Ron Shields thing. I had it up. Sorry about that. I apologize for that. I'm not sure. I'm not even sure what I'm sending you right now. What? You got the whole thing? Yeah, I'm a little disturbed that some of the Muslims that are seeking to respond to me don't seem to read what I'm writing or listen to what I'm saying very carefully. Because, for example, the Old and New, he made a comment elsewhere. I don't have it in front of me right now, about how I was trying to pull the wool over people's eyes, being inconsistent. And the reality is, what I've told people consistently, what's in my book, what's in the lectures that I do, is that modern Muslims will interpret the Quran in such a way that they will say that the Torah and the Injil that we possess today were not the Torah and Injil that were revealed by God. I recognize that. I also insist that if you try to insert that reading into the Quran, you turn the Quran into a mishmash of incomprehensible words that could not have had any meaning in its original context. In other words, I believe you all need to start doing meaningful exegesis of the Quranic text in the way we've been doing for a long time for the Old and New Testament texts, and not just simply go, well, you know, it's so this is you need to interpret it in light of the Sunnah, you know, and so whatever our traditional interpretation has been, that's what it needs to be. It's a little bit, to be honest with you, like the Roman Catholic Protestant divide, in the sense that for many Roman Catholics, the traditions that have developed derived from later sources become the primary interpretive grid for the reading of the scriptures. And the Protestants come along and say, nope, I want to know what the apostles said. And in the same way, if you recognize, if you actually hold to the idea that the nature of the Quranic revelation is unlike the nature of anything else, so that the Sunnah, the Hadith, everything, whatever else you might use as an interpretive grid, is epistemologically of a lower level than the actual words of the Quran itself, then you have to start dealing with the questions we've been dealing with for a long, long time, and that is, what would the original audience have understood? What did it mean originally, not as it's been interpreted and recast into different contexts by later generations? And when you do that, it's painfully obvious that, at least in portions of the Quran, the author is seeking to bring Christians and Jews to his aid and to his side and remonstrating with them and saying, mine is the consistent perspective, and we're all monotheists here, and there's only one God, and therefore, you Christians don't go into excess in your beliefs. Well, okay. I've told many an audience, the Quran says to you and I, we've gone into excess in our beliefs. But for that message of the Quran to be relevant, there has to be an accuracy to the words as they're addressed to the Christians. There has to be a level of understanding, given that the Quran comes after the Torah and Injil. Surah 5 connects the authority of Muhammad and the Quran to the preceding revelations. Since that is the case, there needs to be accuracy, guys, in what the Quran says about those preceding religions. And so, if the Quran was meant to be relevant to the Christians of Muhammad's day, then its words have to have been meaningful to them. And so what would they have understood? What did the author of the Quran understand as the Injil? How much knowledge did the author of the Quran have? You believe the author of the Quran is Allah himself. Well, then there should be no misrepresentation. There should be no misunderstanding. It does not have to be a point-by-point refutation of every book, but at least it has to show some familiarity with the actual content of the book. But it doesn't. And you know it doesn't. And so you're coming up with these excuses. Well, Allah doesn't have to address all these errors, blah, 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 blah. The fact is the author of the Quran does not know nearly as much about the content of the New Testament and the doctrine of the Christian people as you, the Muslim engaging in dawah, do today. And that says a lot to me. And I know you have to find a way around that, but that says a lot to me. And so I do not conflate these things. What I do say is that for the Quran to be making any sense, it has to be able to communicate. I've actually got a thing here from Abu Ayyub that addresses the same thing. And so I want to address that, and then still got a lot of other stuff to get to. Here is a comment. It says, James, my friend, even though unlike many other Christian apologists, you do tend to try your best to remain consistent, here you simply miss the mark. How, you might ask? Let's break down in simple terms your contention with the Quranic approach to Christianity. From what I've taken from your DL show and your numerous writings, you believe that any religious text from God that addresses another so-called heretical group, in this instance Christians, should then go into intricate detail about their beliefs and theology. No, that's not what I've said. What I've said is, if it's going to say you're going to hell for what you believe, it better be accurate in what it's saying. It doesn't have to go into detail. It just needs to be truthful. It has to be accurate in what it's saying. It doesn't have to be a multi-book refutation. But if you're going to say, do not say 3, but you never can identify what the 3 is, you don't show any understanding of the relationship of the 3. The one time you mention 3, it's not even the 3 that the people you're talking about actually believe in. That's a problem. So you've misunderstood me. Should then go into intricate detail about their beliefs and theology. That's not what I'm saying. I can accurately dispute the Quranic denial of the crucifixion in 3 sentences. I don't have to go into detail if I accurately understand what the Islamic position is. In the Quran, you have all of Surah. Let's just limit it to Surahs 3, 4, and 5, because as you know, that's where the primary interactive material is. You look at Surah 3, which your own writers will identify as, what did I do with that? I rearranged everything, and now I can't find, Well, I'm gonna have to start putting things where I can actually grab it and remember where it went. Oh, there it is. Just have to remember it is. Study Quran. Okay, I didn't make this up. I didn't have anything to do. I did not influence this. But in the Study Quran, Surah 3, background to the key texts, disputation with the Christians from Najran, right? Okay. So, I look at the screen and in all capital letters, there's someone in channel that says, would Geritol help you to remember? Maybe. I'll try it if I understand that it tastes horrible though. But maybe they've improved it. I'm gonna have to find out. Have you looked on Amazon yet to find out where they sell Geritol? What? But do it for me. Do it for me. I realize that your genetics are so much better than mine, and so you don't need to worry about it. But do it for me. See if they have it. It could at least make a good prop for the future. I could just keep a bottle of it back here with the straw man and the straw man and the Play-Doh. We have the straw man and the Play-Doh here hiding in the. Do you see the straw man? When we want to light up the straw man, I don't have my lighter in here. So, what? You brought up the microphone. What? I can't see anything. No, it's not up there. What are you doing? It's on Amazon. You can buy Geritol on Amazon. That's good. That's good. All right, we'll have to get some and see if it helps. If it helps memory, because now I don't remember what I was talking about. Thanks a lot, people in channel. It's sort of like squirrel. You know, that's what happened. Your mind sees it and it's like squirrel. Yeah. Geritol multivitamin, formerly called Complete. Thank you very much. They've got new stuff? That's good. It's not the same stuff you got in 1952. That's probably good. That's probably good. Oh boy. All right. So, whatever I was saying, in Surah 3, you can just cut all that stuff out when you make your response. In Surah 3, you have Muhammad engaging with Christians. So you would expect that the resultant conversation would show an accurate understanding of what the other side is saying. Even though Surah 3 may come after 4 and 5. So this isn't what I'm saying. Let's hear it. So the question I posed to you is, where in the Bible does it ever do this for heretical and pagan groups? Okay. Be happy to point out where it does that. In dealing, for example, with the Old Testament law, I pointed out numerous times that many of the prohibitions and laws that we have that are some of the most difficult for people to wrap their minds around today actually had a background in the Canaanite religion of the day. And so, for example, tohu wabohu in Genesis 1, the void and the uncreatedness there, that has parallels in the religions of the day. So much of what the prophet said, if you understand, and we've only come to understand some of them recently, but if you understand the religious views of the people today, you'll see that they are actually making apologetic argumentation. The book of Colossians, filled with proto-Gnostic terminology that Paul is turning around and using against them. For example, in Colossians 2, when he says, Hati anato katoikai pantai pleromate theate tas somatikos, for in him is dwelling all the fullness of deity in bodily form. No proto-Gnostic could ever use the term somatikos in that way for the true deity. It would be like pulling fingernails down the chalkboard, which doesn't make any sense to anybody today unless you're as old as I am, but it would be extremely offensive to the proto-Gnostic for you to use that type of terminology. Even in the book of Hebrews, where you have the apologetic against not another world religion, but against the the Jews that were seeking to cause Christians to come back to Judaism. You have in-depth knowledge, constant citation of the Old Testament text and scriptures. So, yeah, when you're dealing with what someone else is saying, what you have is accurate representation in the pages of Scripture. You don't have inaccurate. What you don't have is what you have in the Quran. You don't have the identification of the three as Allah, Jesus, and Mary. You don't have the inspired writers accusing someone of being polytheists that are actually monotheists. You don't have that. Goes on to say the God of the Old Testament describes Baal worship on a number of occasions very vaguely, but never goes into detail as to what exactly they believe. Again, when dealing with Baal worship and the high places, there is actually an intimate knowledge that is demonstrated by not only the consistency, but the argumentation is provided against Baal worship. What's different here, and what you're missing, Abu Ayyub, is the Quran claims to be in the line of Torah, Injil, Quran. The original author, you're assuming, taught you that what we have today is not the Torah and the Injil. That makes his words to the Jews and to the Christians irrelevant, because he directs them to the Torah which they possess, to the Injil which they possess. And so it's your modern interpretation that I'm trying to point out to you, you've had to adopt because of the inconsistency of your inspired text that I don't believe is actually inspired because of its own claims. So, I appreciate your statement, but you've missed the reality of what it is that I'm attempting to communicate here. There was another quote. Why don't you bring that down while I look for it? Because the only problem with doing it this way is that I get all these screens up here, and it's next to impossible to find which one's which, because they all sit on top of each other. Well, we'll just have to leave that there because I've got a bunch of other things to try to get to. But let me just say this. I would love to, the next time especially individuals like this, I want to meet Mr. Fontaine. I want to meet these gentlemen in London. In fact, I'd like to ask if folks like, and I realize you guys have your divisions too. You guys got your politics. We know you've got your politics just like we have ours. Got it. But I would love to set up an opportunity to meet with the primary people doing dawah in London the next time I'm there. Without the cameras and the recordings and stuff. Just get to know who you are, have the opportunity to explain to you why I do what I do, and have an evening of real good conversation to try to figure out, especially if we continue doing debates in London while we still have the opportunity of doing debates in London, we still have the freedom of gathering to do that kind of thing, how we could push the ball forward, so to speak, and not just keep revisiting the same topics, but actually, and to do it at a higher level, to do it at a level that really honors the truth, because that's what I want to do. If that's what you want to do, then hopefully that's something that you'll want to do.